Okay, guys, this is the first 8 bars of the melody we've been working on. I'm going to go through this pretty fast, keep it within about 5 minutes. After I make some comments, you can listen to all the melodies that were submitted and watch them go by and make your own judgments on what you thought was good and what was bad. The last one uh, at the end is going to be the one that I stole from a few people, a number of submissions to make what I thought was a good melody for the first 8 bars, and then we'll just continue on. So you get the idea. First one here, just a few things that I thought kind of went to a lot of these examples, and was that sometimes I think people try to fit the melody to make the changes, rather than having a nice melody and then having the changes fit with that. So interesting that there was a lot of variations. I didn't expect so many people have different melodies, and that was very interesting. A lot of people started on different notes. This one, I think 2 people started on the 9th of the chord. And one thing that I noticed is that oftentimes there were leaps that didn't really need to be leaps. And they could have been a little more, let's say, not as disjunct as they came out to be. So, for instance, in this one, I think this leap is unnecessary. Could have just done a C sharp to D, because that's the sharp 11. And another thing I noticed was sharp 11s oftentimes were resolved downwards. In melodies, I think sharp 11s resolve better upwards. In this case, C sharp to D would have been a much more natural melody. Because remember, if you have a singer sing these, it has to sound singable. So, or if you went down the street whistling, it should sound, it should sound like you could whistle it down the street or whatever. So very melodic. So another thing I found right here, as you can see right here, this is a 2-5 in the key of A minor going down to here. So this particular person went from the 7th and resolved up to the 7th of the E7. So this would be much better off going down to a G sharp. 7ths want to resolve to 3rds, and you'll see quite a bit of this. Sometimes that rule is broken, as well as outlining tritones in the melody. And that, I think, a lot of times was to fit this A7 flat 9 chord, as you'll see in a minute. The other thing that I noticed in many of these melodies is that not everyone, but some of them kept in a small range. Rather than maybe, say, an octave, they kept it within a fifth. And it kind of made for the same notes over and over, as you'll see when you listen to at the end. Here's one that I thought that a melody that tried to just fit a melody in to make the change. C sharp is a 3rd, E is a 5th, and there's the flat 9. The good thing is he came down from this actually intervals going up. He resolved that by coming down. This may have been a little bit of what I stole at the end. This is a nice situation here. We go from the kind of be the 4th of the B minor 7 flat 5 down to the 7th, and we resolved. Well, I actually resolved down to the 3rd. He came. The repeated note here is really not needed. It's very redundant. He should have had a C here rather than a. So the 7th resolves to the 3rd, and I think, as you'll see, I made that very similar right in there. So I stole from about 5 different people's melodies to make the final one, as you can hear in the end. The other thing you'll see in many of these is the final note here. Not only, here's another one that started on the 9th, maybe best to start on the 5th or the 3rd. It'd be interesting to see tunes like this, how many start on the 9th. Probably not too many, but the ending here, this is a turnaround, E minor 7, A plus 7 sharp 9, D minor 7 to G7 flat 9. A lot of you tried to fit in the flat 9 here. This is actually the augmented 5th, which is fine. You have to change the chord symbol to G plus 7, flat 9 maybe. But as you'll notice, this G fits all of these chords right here. It's the 3rd here, the 7th here, the 11th here, and the root of G. So G was your good choice right there to make all these changes. Okay, let's go on. Here's a tritone. Here's another guy that started on the 9th, and followed by a tritone downwards. You'll notice that C sharp to G makes up a tritone. And this one, again, tried to fit the melody in with the actual chord change. So try to think melody first, and then make the decision on whether it fits into the chord change. So even though I played the melody at the end, a melody should be able to stand on its own and have the chords just complement that. So as you'll listen, at the end, you can hear some of these that were kind of disjunct because they were trying to fit in the changes or fit in the melody to fit the changes. And here's an example here. He's got the B going to G sharp. Why not just make it A, the 7th, going to the 3rd there? Okay. Many other people, here's the sharp 11 resolving upwards, which I think was good. He went right back down to the E there. So there isn't one way to do this, but I think there's best practices, and you have to use your ear for the most part to really make sure that melody is a nice melody that will stand on its own. Okay, here's one that started on the 7th, and we immediately walk down. You can see a lot of repeated notes here, which is fine. One note samba has a lot of repeated notes, but that's the theme of the tune. So this one I think had too many repeated notes. This could have been figured to maybe go to the sharp 9 right there, and then back down to the flat 9, and then down to the 5th there. I can't play them right now because I'm not at a keyboard. I can do that, but this one could have easily been avoided. Look, there's 4 repeated notes right in a row. This particular person got the rhythm wrong that was set there, but they did go to the 3rd there and then resolve upwards, which worked fine. We went to the root of A minor 7. Right here, we could have gone easily, rather than a repeated note. Why not just go up to D there and go up to the E? So you'll notice that the entire span of this one covers about an octave, but it starts right in kind of the middle of the octave. So I think balance is one of the biggest things. Here's one that starts out with a lot of leaps. This is the sharp 9 of the A7. He didn't put the chords here, but that's A7, A plus 7 sharp 9. That E right there actually conflicts with the A plus 7 because we should have an F there. So he actually put the sharp 9, the 5th, and then the 7th, resolving down to the 3rd of D minor 7. He ended on a G, which works well. Here's another one that he probably should have just gone right down to the. This is the 3rd. This is the 3rd of. I guess he didn't have much choice. The 3rd of B minor 7 flat 5, and he went up to the root of E7, E plus 7 sharp 9, and then to the 3rd of A minor 7. Okay, here's one that starts on the 3rd. Once again, we have this tritone right here. There's a lot of thirds in that melody there, but he did resolve downwards. Whenever you have skips, it's nice to balance it out with a downward movement. So there's another example of fitting in the melody to actually fit the chord change. Here's a nice thing here. He did, as you can see, he did a sharp 11 going up to the 3rd, but why go to an F? Why not go to the 9th? So I think I stole this one. It sounds a little weird having a skip right there. So going to the 9th of D minor and then walking down. Here's another example of going from the 3rd to the root of E7. Okay, let's see. There's a lot of repeated notes there. That one just sits on the 13th and then the 7th of A minor 7. So it might have been able to rework that to not have so many repeated notes. So there's really only a few things that I found that kind of plagued a lot of these melodies. Here's one where he started or she started on the 5th and then jumped right up to the sharp 11, coming down to the 3rd and resolving to the 7th of D minor 7. So remember, sharp 11s in a melody tend to want to go upwards and resolve to the 5th. When you hear that, it sounds a little weird. Even with the changes, it sounds a little weird because it's so abrupt, all of a sudden coming right onto the sharp 11. There's one, again, that went right up to the 3rd. Could have done that C sharp D E there and then worked its way down. Here's a tritone resolution right there. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to resolve to the 3rd there, but they came from the 3rd of the B minor 7. So remember, 7ths to 3rds really resolve well. Here's one that actually resolves downwards to the sharp 11. Why not just go C, D, E, F? Somebody did that in another example. There's another tritone leap right there in the melody. So remember, tritones are a little difficult to sing if you're going to sing this. And back in the old days, nobody ever wrote like box time. That was considered the devil's interval. But obviously, it's not that big of a deal now, but I just want to make that comment. Here's somebody started on the third. Why not go to the sharp 11 right there, resolving up to the ninth? And as you'll see, I did steal this little figure there. A nice balance here, but why go back up to the B? I think I know why they wanted to get back up and do this little ABC thing on the A minor 7. There's a sharp 11 going up to the F, followed by a big leap there, and then back down. So not too bad there. Remember, there's no one way to do this. I just want to choose one that works really well. Okay, here's one that started on the ninth, and there's another tritone melodic interval there, so be careful of those. This one sounded a little weird going up to the ninth. Why not just do C sharp D E instead of B? See, you're thinking too much chord here. You've got to think melody and stepwise motion. Here's another leap from the root of B minor 7 to the third of E7. Why not somehow get down to an A? And some of these things I'm saying would necessitate changing the rhythm. So I know you did. I know you had to stay within this rhythm, but here's one that gets in the sharp 11 in the melody and then goes right back up to it, the root of A minor 7. And this sounded a little weird going all the way up from A to B to the E there. I think you should have resolved back down to a G there, which most of you did, or maybe a handful of you did. Okay, here's one that starts. This is getting a little high. This might be fine for an octave down, maybe a male vocalist singing an octave down, but this got pretty high. Here's one that did a fifth to the sharp 11 back to the fifth, but then he repeated the note there, which is not, criminal, but maybe he could have gone to the third there. So always balance this out. And like I said, there was so many different ways of doing this. I had no idea you guys would come up with so many different melodies based on this rhythm and these changes. So it's pretty amazing. Okay, here's one that went from the fifth of a B minor 7 to the seventh there. Could have maybe just resolved down to the root. I don't know. You'll have to make your judgment when you hear it. Here's one that definitely could have gotten rid of this repeated note. Remember, repeated notes are fine, but as long as you got a chord change there, why not just outline some of the chords? This could have walked right up to the sharp 11 and to an F there, and then made the leap to A, or back down to C maybe, or something like that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, here's one that was very chromatic, and this is the only one that was kind of chromatic at the beginning. Starts on the third, hits the sharp 11, and then the fourth moves down to the third, and then the seventh. I think what they were trying to do is make a nice chromatic line down to the seventh, and then they did resolve to the B there. So seventh, third, which is fine. But this sounds a little weird, hitting that sharp 11 and then moving down to the fourth, and you'll hear that when I play it a little later. Okay, here's one that walked right up, but they had on the B flat 7 sharp 11, they had two Fs there. So I think maybe they could have just gone to G there, gone up to the 13th and back down to the third. And here's a real weird sounding one, and you'll hear it when I play it, is the C up a tritone and then back down. This C to F sharp sounds a little strange. You went from a third to a third. Remember, sevenths to third resolves very well and is very singable. All right, there's only a couple more. Starts on the fifth. Here's one that kind of outlined the A7 sharp 9 chord there. You got the plus 7 right there, and then you got the sharp 9 as well there. So that worked out nice. Come down to the ninth of D minor and back up, and they added their own little chords here. But here's another one that went from B to G sharp. Should be a G sharp there. So you have a resolution of a minor third, not a half step. Here's one that I know that they thought, oh, I got to get in these nice notes of the chord. Here's the seventh moving all the way up to the sharp 11. A little weird leap there, as you'll hear. But it does resolve back down, which is fine. And then they ended on a B here, which doesn't fit. Well, this is Sibelius user, I'm sure. You got to check these chords, you guys. This is A plus 7 sharp 9. So this B, it's probably better off being a G, as we discussed before. Okay, here's one that starting on the third. We have that thing. I think I might have done this one before. Maybe not. Not sure, but you see some of the same things, and you can hear this at the end as well. Okay, let's see if this is the last one. Nope, I already did this one before. Yeah, I did these last two before. Okay, moving on. Okay, this is the final one that I chose. As you can see, nice stepwise movement here. Sharp 11 resolves upwards, and then we start moving up. So we've got, if you have a guide tone here, we've got E to G to C in the melody. Then we move all the way back down an entire octave. And then we start moving up. We hit the octave again, and we end right in the middle. So I think this is a very balanced melody. There's no weird leaps. It stays pretty consistent with steps and skips, and then occasionally a larger leap like that sixth there. You'll notice that I made a nice stepwise motion, hit the sharp 11, hit the third there, and this could have been a B as well. I debated an A. This could have been a B, so it could have been the 13th of D7. So either way, but I did end on a G because it does fit. And then the resolution, da-da-dum, right there back. So we'll start here. So I hope that helps you think about things. The big pointers were, don't make intervals in your melody just to fit the chord changes. Make a melody and then have them have the chord changes fit that melody, even if you have to work around some things and balance stuff out. So balance is the big word. So we'll continue on. We'll get this thing wrapped up very soon.